All right, and I'm from the government, and I'm here to help you, okay? All right, I want y'all to know that, okay? And this is things that the government do, okay? Sometimes the government do stuff like this sign has sharp edge, okay? Because we don't want people getting hurt on the edge of that sign, okay? So we made a sign to tell you that, all right? Or maybe don't enter in this entrance, okay? This is only the entrance. Do not enter here, all right? Sometimes you know stuff like that, or sometimes our spelling ain't the best, all right? And we sometimes we'll mess stuff up, but you know we do the best that we can. There's information you need to know. Like if it's raining, the road's going to be wet, okay? So we've got to help you out with that kind of thing. And then I run across this one. These are statistics. We like to put up statistics show teen pregnancy drops off significantly after the age of 25. Okay? Now, I thought that would be after the age of 20, you know, but no, it's 25. Okay? So that's important kind of stuff for you to know. And so the government is here to help you. Okay? Financial assistance opportunities for Alabama landowners. That's what we're going to talk about. I work with NRCS, as I said, and we help implement all the Farm Bill programs. And there's possible financial assistance available to you through these things. Now, let me tell you a little story right quick. How many of you turkey hunt? Okay, not near as many as what I thought. All right, so my story won't work with you very well, but anyway, I'm going to tell it anyhow. I was on the Coosa Management area for 17 years working down there, and one of the things we would do during turkey season would be out there checking hunters as they come in and out. And I was out there one day, and I had a guy come out, and I stopped him there on the road, and he was all upset, and I said, "What's the problem?" And he said, "Man," I was in there this morning, so I heard a turkey gobbling. He said, he was gobbling, and said, I got set up on him and called, and he gobbled, and he flew down, and gobbled, and I called, and he was gobbling, he was coming into me. And he said, he got in there pretty close, and then somebody got stuck off down in the hollow down there. He said, and all I could hear was a sound going, Now those of you who turkey hunt know what that sound was, okay? And it's a turkey drumming. And when they get in close, a lot of time you can hear that, you know, and it's, you know, and that's what he was hearing. But he told me, he said, somebody got stuck, and he said, it just kept on. He said, I'd call turkey wood. He said, I couldn't hear it go. I just hear it go. And he said, so finally I stood up, and he said, that turkey wasn't 30 yards from me and took off flying. You know? And I didn't have a heart to tell him what it was. I said, hey, maybe tomorrow, but you know, maybe tomorrow will be better. And then he told me as he was leaving, he said, I guess they still stuck, so you might not go down there and check on them. So anyway, it was actually, that's what he was hearing. Several different programs. We're going to hit on some of them. One we commonly call WHIP, Wildlife Habitat Incentive Program. The Conservation Reserve Program, CRP, and the EQIP, the Environmental Quality Incentive Program. Those are our primary ones that we use when managing wildlife under these programs. What assistance is available? Well, there's several different practices that are available, but a lot of times people misunderstand how these things work, and I want to try to do my best to inform you as to what goes on. Number one is you sign up for one of these programs. That's the first step. You come into an NRCS office and you say, hey, I'd like some help managing on my property, and they'll sign you up. All right? Just because you sign up don't mean that you're going to get any assistance whatsoever. All right? You may not. Okay? If you are approved, then you can put into practice whatever practices that we say will be the best ones for you that you're wanting to do. You're actually telling us, and I'm telling you which one of ours that actually fits in. You put those in, and then you can get a payment for that after it's been put in. All right? Now, how do I know if I'll get a payment? You don't. You don't off the top. All right? So, for that reason, I don't encourage people to try to manage their property through this. This is an incentive program. Okay? And it's an incentive for you to do something on your property, but don't just rely on these type of programs to manage your property, okay? They are a great help if you're approved, but not everybody will be approved. What we'll do, and I'm doing this right now, because next Friday is our deadline on this year. And so I'm going out, I'm looking at properties, and let's say I look at it, hey, they want some wildlife openings, they want to plant some longleaf, whatever. I'll look at that. I come up with the acreages on it, the perimeter, how much foot of fire break we're talking about, things like that. I'll come back, and that property gets a score. There's a ranking form that we go through that asks all kind of questions. How much of this property are you treating? Are you going to be planting longleaf on this property? What percentage of this property are in openings? Blah, blah, blah. That all computes to a score. We take those scores, we start at the highest score and start funding, and we go as far as the money will go. Okay? Some years, we may get everybody that we had signed up in a county. Some years, we don't. There's no guarantee, and there's no way to know until everybody's signed up and we see where it goes to. So, like I said, there's nothing for sure about that. And like I said, I view it as a food plot. A food plot, and like Mark told you, everybody that calls us wants to know, what should I plant? But a food plot is only a supplement, okay, to your natural vegetation. Your wildlife don't live in a food plot all the time, although a lot of people evidently think they do. They don't, all right? So, it's just a supplement. And these things are a supplement to help you as well, these programs that we have. We are primarily interested in managing for quail. All right, that's our number one thing that we're looking at, is managing for quail. However, I will tell you that good quail habitat can be good turkey habitat and good deer habitat. Now, the opposite of that may not be true. Okay, you can manage for deer and not have good quail habitat at all. All right, you can manage for turkey and not have the best habitat, but if you manage for quail, you don't have good deer and turkey habitat. All right, and I meant to tell y'all too. Once again, I'll be going over some of this stuff, and you know, it's a tough thing to come behind some of these folks, except in some cases, like with Claude, I told him I'd be glad to try to come behind him and straighten out some of what he told you. Okay? So anyhow, but seriously, I told him I was going to say that, and you know, Claude did a good job one time. Anyway, one thing that you need to keep in mind in managing any kind of wildlife is that there's 12 months in a year. We often forget that. That's what Mark was alluding to when he says people call and say, hey, what can I plant? I usually get that call in September, and they'll say, what can I plant so I have big bucks on my place? And they think that if I go out there and plant this, then that year I'll have these big bucks out there. And that's not at all how that works. You know, by September, the buck has already grown his rack, so what you plant out there really don't have a whole lot of effect on it, and it really don't anyway. Okay? Keep in mind, there are 12 months in a year. All right? Now, that goes back to, we've heard a whole lot of talk about hardwood versus pine and all. Mass production is extremely important. However, how long does that last? Okay? That's only a few months out of the year, you know. Everybody knows that wildlife must have hardwoods, of course, you know. Well, that's not necessarily true. If that's all that they had, they're only going to live for so long because the food's all gone. So you got to have a diversity, and you got 12 months in a year. All right, so remember that. Before you evaluate habitat, you got to know what's the objective of these folks. I run into that all the time and find out that folks' objective may not be what they think it is. Okay? We run into that a lot, and I need to know that when I'm dealing with somebody on one of these programs. What are you actually wanting to get to? Some people will come in and say, what can I get a check for? Well, that's a difficult proposition, you know. I said, well, what do you want to do? Well, I want to get a check on. Well, that's not the way that really works. Okay? But that's what a lot of them do. You know, and then unfortunately you got some come in and say, well, you know, all I want is just, you know, a lot of big bucks behind every tree. Well, that's what everybody wants, okay? But that don't happen, all right? But we do need to know, what is your objective? What are you trying to get to? What's the target on your property? Where are you trying to get to? It could be a lot of different things, okay? And I deal with a lot of folks who their main objective is cattle, okay? Or maybe it's aesthetics. They just want a pretty place. I want my place to be pretty, you know? Or it's tree production. I got to get all the trees I can get out of it, you know. Or it may be hay production. You know, that's what it is. And then some of the ones that are wiser want turkeys, okay? You know, the ones that know what's going on, they want to have turkeys, all right? However, now, let me tell you, you can have all of that, but you cannot maximize all of that on the same property, okay? We cannot have the maximum amount of hay land and the maximum amount of turkeys on the same place. That don't work. All right? So you have to understand that. Now, what did he just say? Did he say you can't manage for diversity? No, that's not what he said. Okay? I said that diversity is a great benefit, but you can't maximize for everything on the same acres. All right? Same property needs to be diversified. You need to have a hay field over here, and you need to have some hardwood over here, and you need a pine stand over here, and you need some open area over here. You need all that, okay? But you're not going to maximize a property for cattle on the whole property and have a bunch of turkeys too. That don't work, okay? You got to figure out this balance in there, this diversity thing, and that's what we try to help folks do. good habitat should resemble a patchwork quilt. Okay? If that's all that's different habitat, this end is one kind of, that's a pine plantation that you're managing, and this is a hardwood area, and this is a bottomland, and this is an open field. Great. That's what you're looking for. Diverse farms desirable. Most people want to manage for multiple species. Okay? Rarely do you have people that say, this is all that I want to manage for. It does happen, but not a lot. And this is very important. If you're going to manage with wildlife in mind, keep the wildlife in mind. And you may think, well, that sounds obvious, and it does. But let me tell you what I mean. If you were to ask a chef what to stuff a turkey with, he's going to tell you breadcrumbs. All right? But if you were to ask a taxidermist what to stuff one with, he's going to say styrofoam. All right? But if you ask a turkey, all right, he's going to say acorns and worms and seeds. All right? If you're going to manage with wildlife in mind, keep them in mind. What do they need? Not what do I want on my property. What do they need on my property? Okay? And a lot of people lose sight of that. All right? So don't lose sight of that. Think about what he needs. Think about what he thinks about. This is what he thinks about. We've been able to find this through research. He thinks, man, I wish that bush hog would go in the ditch. Okay? He said, I'm tired of them cutting all this cover down out here. You know, he says, man, I wish they could run over every coyote out here. Okay? You know, he says, man, if we could get rid of those raccoons. Okay? Think like he thinks, all right? Okay, here we go. And everybody knows, and Steve, I don't want to go get too much into what you're going to talk about, but everybody knows the problem with turkeys, predators. I mean, good grief. There's no shortage of these predators, okay? Which I'm going to let Steve handle that one for you. But anyway, all of these, with the exception of the one, are actual turkey predators, okay? But let me tell you, I can tell you, and not to steal all of Steve's thunder, but I will tell you this. The best thing you can do to limit predation on turkeys is provide optimum habitat. That's the way you do that. That's the way you handle predators. You will never do enough predator control to take care of that, okay? But the better habitat you have, the better turkey population you're going to have. And that's that simple. All right. What all is available? Optimum habitat can take you from that. We've seen that today, to that, and hopefully to this. That's where we want to get to. Non-native grasses do not provide early successional habitat. I was thinking, as I listened to all the different talks, I thought, well, man, at least I'll be able to hit on early successional habitat. Nobody's really said early successional habitat, and then that's all Mark talked about for 20 minutes, all right? So, don't do fescue, okay? Fescue don't work, all right? Bahia grass is great for turkeys. It's not for quail. That's one of those things where it's not the same, okay? And I say great for turkey. They love it. Not necessarily the best habitat you can have, okay? Bermuda grass is another one we don't want. That's one of the programs that we have that's probably one of our, when folks are really wanting to manage for quail and turkey, more used practice is that we have a practice that will get rid of non-native grasses. And get rid of is sort of a misnomer. We're going to do our best to eradicate that. You don't always do that in one step, okay? But you know, we can go in there with herbicide application, and then after you've burned that down with herbicide, then you disc that, and you'd be surprised, and this was talked about earlier, Mark mentioned all this, about all the different seed that may be in your soil bank there. And they may have been there 40 years, but you bring them to the surface and they germinate, okay? And so you can get some good stuff back that way. And so that's a good practice that we have. And it improves our habitat, brood rearing habitat. Of course, there's several different ways that can be applied. Things like that. And this is what we want to get back. Natural food. Okay, the natural food, you know, is the best food. Okay, it's the most drought resistant food that you'll have. It's going to be the most consistent. And those are the things that you want to come up with. And that'll do that a lot of time. Another thing, and the reason you see this says equip, because these are available under both of these programs. They both do pretty much the same thing, but there are two different pots of money. That's why we have them separate. Strip disking. Mark hit on this pretty hard. Strip disking is an excellent practice. I wrote an article here a while back, and the title was "You Don't Get Something for Nothing," or "Something for Nothing," I think was the title. And that's the problem with strip disking, is that people think, I just can't believe it would be that good, because I mean all it is you're going out there and you're disking. And that ain't doing it. That's not spending enough money to do any good. But that's not true. Okay, I can tell you that the disking is a great tool. All right, you want to disc in the wintertime to get back what you want, but it's a great tool. All right, This is a light disking. I'm not talking about plowing. I've had some folks, and I tell them, you know, need to do some strip disking. You get out there, man, they've took the bottom plow and they got that stuff, you know, turned up, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is not exactly what I meant. I had another one down in Montgomery. A girl called me. She said, would you call Miss So-and-so and talk with her? And I said, well, what is it? She goes, well, you remember telling her to do that disking? And I said, yeah. She said, well, she called me and said she'd done it, and all that come back was weeds. And I said, well, you call her and tell her that's what's supposed to come back, okay? You know, one person's weed, you know, is another person's great food plant, all right, and that's true. We do that in several different areas. You can get that done, you see what that looks like. That's a great practice, and we highly recommend that. Even bare dirt is a good component of, you know, of habitat, okay? You need some bare dirt out there. However, now some people get excited, especially some of our district conservationists with NRCS, they don't really understand about strip disking, and a lot of times you'll have them put in there that they want somebody to strip disc, you know, 10 acres, you know, something like that. They don't realize that they're talking miles and miles of disking, okay? So you got to think about that. I'm talking about a disc or two wide. I'm not talking about go out and disc your whole field, okay? We're talking about strips. All right. One thing, in which Mark, I thought, well, what's he going to say? But he said the same thing I want to tell you. You know, just say no to the bush hog, okay? The bush hog, it has its place, and you can use that some, but if you got a place you think you probably ought to bush hog, I would recommend you disc it, okay? It's a better practice in most situations, not always. And none of this will we say always or never do this or do that. You can't say that, okay? Because every situation is different. But in the majority of cases, as far as to get the kind of habitat I want, the disking is going to give you the habitat. Keep in mind, disking can change composition where bush hogging just sets back succession. Okay? You're going to keep the same thing there, it's going to just come back again. Disking, you can change what's coming in there, and that's important a lot of times. If you've got what you want, then just bush hog it, okay? If you want that to come back, that'll work. But if you don't have what you want, you can change it through disking. Burning. It's already been said, this is an excellent practice. It is. You know, I can't recommend it enough. We need more folks out there burning. We will cost share on burning, in which NRCS don't like to use the term cost share anymore, although it's sort of hard not to say because what we're doing is sharing the cost. But anyway, we will give you a payment, all right? You know, if you're approved and you can burn some property, then you will receive a payment on that. And we'll talk about that a little more in a minute. This is on Coosa, burning. You know, one thing about turkeys that burn. I had a guy come in one day on the management. He was fit to be tied. He was fighting mad. I said, what is it? And he said, I've been hunting a turkey for 2 weeks, and now y'all come in there and burn all that and ruin it. I said, well, you know, I hate it for you. I said, it's not ruined. Well, he said, it is ruined. I said, well, whatever. And talked to him best I could. You know, about 30 minutes later, a guy come in, he had a turkey, his feet was black up to here. Okay? All right? Matter of fact, I was able to get this picture. You know, the turkey's using burning. Here's a turkey blowing his foot to cool it off. All right? Now, luckily, I was able to get this shot. And so, do turkeys use burn area? Yes, they do. Okay? They love a burn area. All right? And what I tell people like that, I said, don't you want your food cooked? I said, all that does is it just opens up. There's the food laid right up there for them, and it's cooked. And they eat it. So anyway, insects, extremely important. We want to do stuff that's going to help that. But one thing to keep in mind, when people think about insects, they think grasshopper, okay? One thing you want to keep in mind is that grasshopper is bigger than that poult, okay? So we're not talking about that kind of insect, all right? We're talking about little insects, okay? And we can get to that. Burning really helps with that. Okay? And you want to compartmentalize your burn just like a patchwork quilt or like all the counties in the state. You wouldn't burn your whole, if that was your property, you know, it'd be a great idea to come in there and burn all the blue places one year and then the yellow and then the orange, okay? Move that around. You don't want to go in and burn your whole property at one time. And we'll work with you on that. And like I said, burning is one of the things that we try to promote and to help people get done. Burning in woods and in open fields. Both of those things are eligible for under cost share program. Always use a certified burn manager, okay? Those people there. It's important that you use somebody that knows what they're doing, okay? So, you know, you can tell that guy he knows how to set something up, all right? So Well, anyway, I always do that. And, you know, a lot of people have experience, but, you know, a lot of people need to get experience. And you get with somebody and learn how to burn. Burning is a lot of fun to do, except when it gets out. But, you know, other than that, it's a lot of fun to do. All right. Of course, our burn council, you know, they're looking for folks to be a member of that all the time. It don't cost anything to be a member of that. And they just want to support burning. That's their main goal, is to support burning in Alabama. And it's important that we be able to do that. Wildlife stand improvement is pre-commercial thinning of pine. How many of y'all have seen a pine stand? You know, it's a loblolly stand, it's 3 or 4 years old, and it's just like that, okay? There's not a lot of good wildlife habitat there, okay? Primarily, normally what happens here is it's a place that was cut, it was not replanted, it's just allowed natural regeneration to come in there, and you end up with 1,000 stems per acre, okay? And you got a situation that's going to be quite some time before you have any good habitat there. Okay, we have a program where we'll come in and pre-commercial thin that. Okay, that's done a couple different ways. One is with this guy with a big weed eater. All right, not the job that I necessarily want. All right, however, I can tell you they do a jam up job, and they come in there, and I got a guy, and he is actually from Panama, and he lives in Georgia now. And I've had him do 3 or 4 places. I say I've had him do that, and that's a good point. Let me tell you, we don't have him do anything. I give landowners his name as one of several names that they can contact to use. Okay, we do not set up vendors for people on their property and what to do. That's their responsibility to do that. Okay, but they've contacted him. I've seen 3 or 4 jobs he have done, and I don't know how he gets it done like he does, but he does a great job. And they go in there with these weed eaters with a big blade on them, and they start cleaning it out. And what we want to get down to is about 300 trees per acre on that. And like I said, a lot of these times they're starting with 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 trees per acre. And they go in and go at it and clean it up. Of course, there's other ways to do that. You can do that with a dozer and do a grid through it. Different things like that can be done. But the difference is, you know, a lot of times you got to stand like that. You're talking years before it's going to be productive. Where if you can get them to go in there and thin it out for you, you're going to get there a lot quicker. Okay? And they're giving a payment on that, and I forgot exactly what the amount is on that. However, that's a great practice if that's what you need. We do tree planting as well. Hardwood tree planting, you got to plant at least 3 species. And they'll do, under EQIP, they will do some loblolly pine planting. And that's new. We didn't do that. We did years ago. We had stopped that, and now it's back in that you can do some loblolly planting. However, those do not qualify as high as the longleaf planting. Okay? And the reason being, and I don't want to get ahead of Luke on longleaf planting, but you know, longleaf is the way to go if you want to have wildlife, okay? And I have people ask me, they say, well, why is longleaf better? Well, longleaf is not any better at all. It's the management of the longleaf is what's better, okay? And you're going to hear about that in a little bit, I'm sure. We'll tell you what spacing that we think you should use on that, or that you have to use that type of spacing. And we want you to site prep that. You have to use containerized seedlings. That's some specifications that we have. And we've had some tremendous success with this. We're trying to build back up the longleaf component in the state. And we're seeing a whole lot of results. As I told you earlier, our primary idea is to get quail back. And this is doing that. The management of this is helping to get quail back. We're seeing this increase all the time. And so it's working well. And as you can see, longleaf actually attracts gobblers. Okay, I don't know if y'all knew that or not, but you know, there's a longleaf by itself, and there they all come flocking to it. I don't know. Hey, I just took the picture. I don't know. Anyway, let me tell you something that's very critical is the site prep, and this is a sore spot because I've had to go to some longleaf plantings that we had that failed. And I said, you know, normally we have 95% survival on these plants. So I don't know what the trouble is. And I have found out, though, almost on every one of these, the trouble was it was not site prepped as it should have been. Okay? You don't go in there on a place with a heavy non-native grass and put in, you know, a gallon of Roundup on that and think that you have site prepped that and ready to plant longleaf. That's not the way that works. You have to have a good site prep. Okay? As a matter of fact, I have found that that's probably the most important thing. One of the most important is having a good site prep to plant those trees. And then getting them planted correctly is the second thing. And I've had people call me several times on planting these containerized trees, and they say, you know, I don't think they planted this right. And I said, and I know what they're going to say next. I said, well, why do you say that? Because they left part of that thing sticking up out of the ground. They say they didn't bury it in the ground like they're supposed to. Well, the proper way to plant this is for part of this to be left showing, okay? You're not supposed to bury that as deep as you can. All right, so I have to explain that to them. And so that's important that you get a good job done on that. But that's probably, this year especially, that's our #1 practice that we're working with people on is planting longleaf. Why? And I told you it's the management of it. It's, you know, the fire that's involved with longleaf is what gives you your habitat. And so that's important. You need to burn it early and often. And I've had folks say that you can't kill it burning it. That's not true. Okay? But, you know, it can withstand a lot, but you can kill it. All right, every one of you have driven down the road and you've seen a site that looked like this. Okay? And you may know what's missing from that, and it's that. Sunlight. That's why that was that desert up under there. There's no sun hitting the ground. Okay? And we have a practice for that. We have a thinning practice where if you'll thin that to either a 40 or a 60 basal area, then you can get a payment for that. Okay? Now, a normal thinning, and foresters can help you on that, but a normal thinning is to about 70 basal area is what you want to take that down to a lot of time. The reason that you get a payment for taking it to 60 is to offset that you're taking it lower than what would normally be there. Okay? And there's a payment involved in that. This payment, it don't have anything to do with what you get for the wood. That's all up to you. You line up somebody to cut your wood, you get it thin, and all that. You get the payment for all that. Okay? But if you do that, and of course, like I said, you have to be approved prior to all this going on. But if you're approved, and if you thin it to 60 basal area, then you get an extra $60 an acre, just a payment to you for doing that. Okay? If you want to take it to 40, which not many people do, and that's pretty much a pure quail type situation, you get 120 an acre payment for that.
Joel,
yes, sir.
Are those target basal areas for quail primarily? Or
Well,
does it apply to turkey as well?
Well, that would apply, the 60 would apply to turkey as well. The bottom line is getting this stand opened up to where we get some sunlight on the ground. You know, that's the bottom line. And either one of those would be beneficial for them. I'm very hesitant to tell folks to take something down to 40. They got to be a pure quail enthusiast and know what they're doing, you know, on that. But 60, we got several folks that are interested in doing that. We have another practice. It's called a mid-rotation release. You heard several of the folks that talked today. They talked about getting this understory coming up in here. This is sweet gum coming up in a pine stand like that. It don't take sweet gum long to get beyond burning, controlling that. Now you've heard today some of the different type burns that you can do that will control it better than other type. However, it still can get beyond burning. All right. If that's the case, you may need to come in there with a Mazapeer spraying of that and to kill that out, and then pick up your burning and clean that up. And that's a practice that is offered. And what a difference some daylight makes. You know, you go from a desert, a biological desert in there, to having a growth like that under that stand. Native grasses. I didn't know that Mark was going to spend an hour and a half on that, but he did. But anyway, once again, we're hitting that again. Native grass plantings are offered under some of our programs. You got to use multiple species. Of course, there's several to choose from. You know, and once again, a monoculture of anything is not necessarily good. We're not saying go out there and do all of your place in native grass. I'm not saying that, okay? But there's a lot of places that would benefit from having some native grasses on them. And of course, you manage them with fire a lot of time, and that's another good wildlife benefit. And I have people that say, well, you know, I got cows, I can't get rid of this fescue. Well, actually, a lot of studies have shown that the native grasses will put on as much weight as any other exotic forage that you can find. Okay. However, one thing you have to do is it will not tolerate grazing it to the ground like some other stuff will. Okay. So that's one trade-off there. But you know, they said, hey, we're just looking for something to eat. Okay. All right. CRP. Now this is a whole different kind of program. It's under the Farm Service Agency. However, we're the technical service providers on that. And basically, in a nutshell, what it is leaving a field border around the field that has, and let me tell you that to qualify under CRP, your property has to have a cropping history. That means that within 4 of the last 6 years, it had to be some type of crop. All right, so if you had a field, you've been planting that in corn or soybeans or whatever the case, and you decide, hey, I don't know that I want to do that anymore, then you can come, or even if you do, you can still come and take a border all the way around that field and take it out and leave it for wildlife, okay? Now, that border can be from 30 to 120 feet, okay? A lot of times, some of these fields we deal with, they're so good grief, if you take 120 feet all the way around the field, you take the whole field. Sometimes that's the case, okay? But what you would get, that's a 10-year program. You get a payment every year for having that, putting that property in there, okay? And of course, that varies on how many acres it is and how much per acre, and each county is different on that. But that is a good practice to do, and then that border is maintained by either disking or burning, all right? It also has to have a hedgerow, actually a shrub patch, every 330 feet has to be in there for some cover, okay? And there's some other stipulations that go with that. One is you can't even turn your tractor around on that border, okay? That border is not to have any kind of farming done on it, and that includes going and turning around on it. You can't do that, okay? It's got to be totally offset as to not be used as anything in the field, all right? But you got a lot of acreage and fields and all. That's a great practice, because one of the great things is that edge of your property is usually the least productive place that you've got as far as growing a crop, because it don't get as much sun and all right there on the edge. And so that's a good practice if you're wanting to try to mesh some farming and some wildlife habitat. Okay, we also will create wildlife openings. That's in WHIP and EQIP. We'll do that. Try and increase brood rearing. We like to use, sometimes we'll use bug spots or loading decks or whatever. The goal is to try to get your property up to 5% in opening, okay? For turkey, I recommend a whole lot more open than that, but that's the goal under these programs. Half of that, if you're under WHIP, one half of that opening needs to be left in natural vegetation, okay? We're going to talk about that a little more. You know, that's a wildlife opening, and it may not have anything planted in it. That's just like what you've heard earlier today. Is, you know, what do I need to plant? Well, the answer to that may be nothing, okay? But just because you have an opening don't mean you don't manage that. You need to keep that in mind. It needs to be managed as an opening, because if you don't manage it as an opening, it's not going to stay an opening, all right? You know, if I just let that go, eventually there's going to be pine trees going to be popping up in there, you know, and then pretty soon they're up too big to where the bush hog won't even handle them. And before long, I've got a stand of trees there. I don't have an opening anymore. So you have to manage that, okay? Creating these openings, we'll do that, and we have a couple different rates. One, if you've got a place that's been clear cut, you're wanting to go back and plant some of that in long leaf, and you'd like to have some openings left in there, then we have a rate where we'll go in there and pay for stumping an opening and cleaning it totally up. Okay, if you've got an area that's just been an old field and it's got saplings and stuff that's big in it and all, it's not going to have stumps pushing all, then that's a different rate. But we will do that as well. And like I said, there's several different types of opening too. You need to keep that in mind. You know, you may have, like I said, it may not be planted all the time, it may not ever be planted for that matter, but it does need to be managed. But it can be planted if you want to do that. We don't pay for that, with the exception of, we do have a program that will plant white clover, okay? And you have to plant either Durana, Resolute, or Patriot, I believe are the three names on that. It's basically the same clover, but it is white clover and it does very well. Wide roadsides can be managed. Now that's something to keep in mind, and I know that Claude talked about that and Mark talked about that, is about using a roadside, and that's one of my favorite techniques to do. But people don't think about that when they think of opening. They don't think, well, he could be talking about going down the side of my road 60 feet or 120 feet, over here. Well, that's a great way to do that, as long as it's not visible from a public road or something like that. Okay, so that's a good way to do that. That gets a lot of use, very beneficial. It's great for if you have kids or your family. You take them out there and you get to see wildlife as you're going through your property, and that's what a lot of it's about. Okay, establishment of reseed legumes and application of lime. If you want to get your property lime, the field there, that we can do that, but you have to be establishing legumes there. So that means we're going to be planting some partridge pea. Normally is what we recommend on that. And that's if you've found out, hey, I don't seem to have any natural partridge pea out here. Partridge pea is a good plant, especially a quail type plant, but if you get that kind of habitat going, there's going to be good food there for all the different species. Now you see this other one here is sort of humorous to me. I have people that cuss that all the time. They say, man, I wish we'd get rid of them beggar ticks, I hate them things. And I said, that's one of the best quail foods you got out there. And they go, what? They didn't know anything ate that. But it is. It's one of the best foods that they've got. So, and the same thing with sawbriars with deer. You know, they say, I hate that thing. I said, well, you know, that's what deer's eating right now. Like, really? And I said, yeah. So anyway, once again, if you're going to manage your wildlife in mind, keep the wildlife in mind. What do they want to eat? Not what do I don't like pulling off my pants, you know, and these bigger ticks. What do they want to eat? And right there, you see where that's just a roadside on the Coosa area where we've done a little work, and you see what come back in the partridge pea and all. One other thing that's important under whip and equip is feral hog trap. And you say, well, what does it have to do with managing turkeys? And I can tell you, it has a lot to do with managing anything you want to manage on your property. Because that's a destructive beast right there, okay? And he's going to tear up anything that you try to put together. He's going to tear it up, all right? They really do compete with anything on the property. And so if you, and you know, people, especially in this area, either don't have any or they're just starting to see some. That's the time to catch them, okay? Nip it in the bud, as Barney would say. That's the time to do it. Get rid of that because it's extremely destructive. Now, a lot of people, I got an article that'll be coming out before long, and the name of it's going to be Don't Fall in a Hog Trap, okay? And the trap is, people say, you know, I think that'd be a good thing to have on my property because that's something else to hunt. You know? But they find out, man, that's not a good thing to have on my property. That's just like kudzu's a good thing, you know, for erosion, you know? And that's true, okay? However, you know, most people have decided, I don't really want that kudzu. I think I'll go another route, okay? But by that time, it's too late. It's the same with this right here, okay? You know, a hog or two occasionally say, well, that ain't no problem. You know, they can breed, you know, they'll breed, what, 3 times in 14 months? As Chris Jaworski says, they have 13 in a litter and 15 of them survive. So, okay, you can do the math on that, all right? There is a practice that's available for you on that to pay to have a hog trap constructed and put on your property. Okay. I was just going to mention that book's available, but since you got them here today, I didn't even have to mention that. Okay. Should you sign up? All right. Well, that's a good question. All right. You know, and that's up to you totally. But I can tell you, if you don't, then there's no chance whatsoever you'll get any funding from any of this. Okay. Is there any red tape? Yes, more than 2 rolls of it. Okay? All right. You'll get writer's cramp filling out all the paperwork. All right? One of the appendices that we send with you is 15 pages long. That's for you to read at night if you're having trouble going to sleep. All right? Because that's what it'll do to you. All right? There is a lot of paperwork. You've got to come up with a copy of your deed. You've got to have a power of attorney of anybody else's name that's on your deed. We've got to have a canceled check. We've got to have direct deposit information. Several different things, okay? However, you know, what's it worth to you to have, you know, 60 to 70% of what you're wanting to do paid for? So it's all a trade-off. How much do you want to do? Another thing that's very important is that you plan ahead, okay? As I told you a while ago, next Friday is our deadline, okay? Not on signing up. It's a deadline on picking out which ones of these are going to be funded for this coming year. Okay, what we'll do Friday is the longleaf will be planted in December of this coming year. Okay, so we work about a year ahead. So if you're saying, you know, and this happens every week, somebody will come in our office and go, look, I'm having some timber cut, I want to try to get it planted. Well, you know, or worse yet, they'll say, I had it cut 3 years ago and I'd like to get it planted. Well, from the time you sign up, most of the time you're looking at about a year before we'll be able to do anything on that. So the best thing to do is get some ideas on what you want to do on your property. If I think, hey, I'm going to cut some timber this fall, then come in and sign up, all right? You're not eligible until that's cut. But that don't mean you can't sign up and us know that what you're wanting to do and help plan down the road for that. I'd a whole lot rather you come in prematurely, you know, and be signed up than to come in after the fact, which is what normally happens. People say, well, I need to get this done now. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but our sign-up's already passed, and we're already looking at next year. Okay? So, think ahead. If you want to use one of these programs, plan ahead. There's a lot of paperwork. Okay? And if you sign up, there's no guarantee you'll be funded. Okay? However, if you don't sign up, there's a guarantee you will not be funded. Okay? You're not sure which way to go. All right? Well, you know, you may need some more information. Okay? If that's the case, right here in Talladega, that's the number you can contact for the Talladega NRCS office, which is right across the street over here in the post office. If you want to go by there one day, it's actually in the post office building. Or, that's my number, you can call. Our numbers are available at outdooralabama.com. You can find out how to get in touch with us. Or you can go to the NRCS website, al.nrcs.gov, and get any county. It'll put up the whole state. You just pick what county, it'll tell you how to get in touch with those folks. Okay? And these things are available statewide, all right? They're all over the place. Lastly, take a kid hunting, all right? You get a chance, you need to take them hunting. And not only boys, okay? Take your daughter as well, your granddaughter, okay? Get them out there and get them interested in that. Because, if you start them early, you don't know how long they may stay in it, but they may stay till then, okay? This one, of course, he didn't actually go hunting on this, but he's 2 years old, all right? And this one, he's 92 years old. All right? And he's still actively turkey hunting. So, and it's kept him out of trouble, all that time. Okay? So, you get a chance, take a kid hunting. And he hunts the old school way, And it's interesting to talk with somebody that's 92 that's been turkey hunting, and you ask them about some of the new gadgets that's come along, and and they go, "What are you talking about?" They don't know. You say, "Well, what kind of shot? What size shot do you use?" That 4-shot. I mean, is there anything else? He said, "What kind of call do you use?" And they go, "A box call." I mean, is there another kind of call? And the thing is, they've been successful for a long, long time, and all these new gadgets. Sometimes I think we're just wasting our money when I have to wear my vest and carry the rest of my stuff. When I'm out there after. Any questions?